Okay, so I would like to do introduction again because I just started the recorder. So my name is Adi Usman. I am a cybersecurity professional with 5 years experience in IT. So I currently tutor with Go My Code. So and also with IJON as a part-time instructor. My um, currently as a full-time I work as an internal control officer, also known as GRC officer. So this course will be a 5 month course, and I've provided the material that will guide you all through the period of 5 months. So the material contains your day-to-day content that you need to go through, right? So we have practical, we will have some theoretical aspects. So we'll start with the theoretical aspect. So from the start, it might be boring because there are some basic concepts you need to understand before we get to the practical. So I will indulge you to, you know, um, endure the theoretical aspect and also focus so that when you get to the practical aspect, you will not be struggling to understand. So, okay, so some ground rules that I would like to start with is um, so number one is whenever I post information in our group, so it is very important to me that you acknowledge the message, whether you type message or you just react to it. So it gives me um, an assurance that I'm actually talking to people and they are following along. Because if I don't get reactions or response to the messages, I will not be sure if the people I'm talking to are actually following along. So I would like you to please ensure that you react to the message. That's number one. And number two is please ensure that um, if you are given assignment, you do the assignment. Simply because this will help you in building your groundwork. So it's not everything that we will be able to treat in depth in class. So you have some assignments that you need to also do some research on. So it's important that you do your assignments, do your research, so that um, you can also learn how to learn, because you are not guaranteed that you will have a tutor always, someone that will always guide you, or someone that will always give you the right information when you seek the right information. So it's important that you also know how to research on your own and do some findings, so which the assignment will help you achieve. Then what else? So then number three is okay, well, I've mentioned joining the class regularly. Yeah, joining the class regularly. So that it will not drive us back. Because if you miss classes and you eventually join one of the class, you might not be able to catch up if we are talking about something and you will probably want to drag us back. So I might need to do more explanation than needed. So that's it. So as time goes on, we'll be adding to the rules. So let's just okay. So for today, we are going to talk about um, we will talk about four topics or so, or three topics, depending on what um, the time permits. So I'll present my screen now. I don't have I don't have any slide prepared. So I'll just present my screen and we will go through it together. Okay, please if you can see my screen, let me know. Um, can you see my screen? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, thank you, thank you. Mm, is it legible enough?
Make maybe you can increase it. It's tiny.
Yeah, I can see. Evan.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is from the notes that I sent. So let me just quickly explain how you can explore the content. So you can see the tabs here. So for now, months 1 and 2 is what you can have access to. So I have content for month 1. Sorry. So you can still see my screen, right?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, all right. So I have content from month 1. So if I click on this, it will bring me a drop down, and then you can see for week 1. So this is week 1 inside month 1. So week 1 we have day 1, day 2, day 3 to day 6. So for that Saturday, I don't know how that will play out because we will be having 2 sessions per week. So for that Saturday, um, so all we can do is the first day we do something relating to the lab phase. So we'll not be meeting on Saturday, but this session, I mean this content just includes Saturday. So we'll not be meeting on Saturday, we're meeting on Wednesdays and Fridays, right? So what we are going to be doing is for the first day, which is Wednesday, so we'll do something relating to the lab phase, the lab session, and then on Friday, then we'll do the lab session, the practical aspect. So like I said, per session we'll be taking like maybe 2 to 3 topics. So among the 3 topics, we'll do one that is relating to the lab phase. So that's how we are going to do it. So you can explore. So per day you have topics to read on. So we are not going to be treating all these topics per day, right? It's because we are meeting twice in a week. So Wednesday, I can just pick maybe day one, day two, and day three. Day four and day five, you will read on your own. And then when we the second our second session, we'll do a recap on the ones you read on your own. I'll ask you questions, you answer to know, and then you ask me questions where you are having difficulties to understand. We'll explain that, and then we'll move to the lab session. So it's not all lab session that's really uh, technical. So, for example, the lab session for this one require is something that you can even do as an assignment. So, which I will give you as your first assignment, analyzing real world cyber attack and assessing threat impact. So that will be your first assignment because it does not require any installation or any special technical um, any special or technical um, thing to do. So we'll talk about today. We'll talk about day one, day two, and day three. Then day four and day five is what you are going to read on your own. So on Friday, we'll do recap on day four and day five, and then we'll talk about the assignment. So I'll drop a link where you drop your assignment. You submit your assignment rather after the class. So let's start. So day one. So when we are talking about cybersecurity, so cybersecurity has to do with the practice of protecting systems, networks, programs, and people from digital or physical attack, right? So, but that's the general definition of cybersecurity, right? But from the literal definition, it's entails systems, protection of systems, network, and applications from digital attack. But when it comes to business side of it, so we are also looking at the people involved in the business process, right? So we are not just focusing on systems, network, and programs or application. So we are also trying to focus on people that are using all these tools, that are using the systems, using the network, using the application. So we are looking at how to protect them from physical attack or cyber attack, and also how to ensure that they have the knowledge to protect themselves or to protect to recognize threats, and also to protect themselves and the organization from attack. So so these attacks are usually aimed at accessing, changing, or destroying sensitive information, so which usually results to extorting money from users or um, interrupting normal business process. So, like I said, cybersecurity is in terms of business process. So it encompasses protecting people, systems, network, and application. Right. So the problem about cybersecurity is that it is a constantly evolving field, which is due to new threats and technology that are also evolving every day. So we have, due to new technologies that are evolving every day, new threats also evolve every day, which has makes cybersecurity field a constantly evolving field. So it is not a static field that when you learn certain knowledge, when you learn certain things, then you can stop learning. So this field is a field that you need to learn every day. You need to update yourselves with um with knowledge every time. So the importance of cybersecurity. So it helps us in terms of data protection by ensuring that our personal, financial, and proprietary data are safeguarded, in safe condition, right? So also in terms of privacy, it ensures that individual and organizations information remains private, right? So we'll talk more on privacy, the fundamental aspect of the fundamental rules of cybersecurity, keeping something safe. So we'll talk more about that. Yeah. So number three is business continuity. So it ensures that we put some things in place in such a way that when there is disruption, it helps us to it helps our business to continue um, a normal process with minimal or no disruption at all, right? So, and we know that for business to make money, all business processes have to they have to be in continual operation, right? Business processes have to continue in order for organization to make money. So, for instance, in Nigeria, if there is maybe federal government declare holiday, so for that day all federal government parastatal will not generate any revenue because they will excuse me because they will be on holiday, right? So that means that if there is any cyber attack or disruption from maybe environment or um, people to a business, and then the business process cannot continue, then it means that they will not make money, right? So, and that will lead to financial loss for that day or for that period of time that disruption has occurred, right? So it helps in business continuity by helping us put some things in place to ensure that we foresee disruptions, and also put controls in place to ensure that business processes are not hindered by the disruption, or will just have minimal effect on the business process, right? And the fourth one is national security. Someone is trying to join. You're welcome. You can mute yourself if your environment is noisy. So okay, national. So the fourth one is national security. It helps nations to protect their critical infrastructure from cyber warfare, So what's cyber warfare? Cyber warfare is when countries are fighting with what? With they are fighting digital war, right? So for example, example of this is when we had China release there was an AI tool that China released. Can anybody tell me on this call? Recently, like early this year, maybe March or so. Do you know any AI tool like ChatGPT that China released, a Chinese company released? Anyone? So China released that Chinese company released that tool, and the next day, almost immediately, that tool hit the market. There is an economic meltdown for US. So one of their critical stock commodity went down. That's Nvidia. I've forgotten the name of the AI tool. I've forgotten the name of the AI tool. So Nvidia, their stock investment just went down for few days. So what does that mean? Nvidia now did what? They partner with some companies, strategic partnership, and ensure that they regain their position in the stock market. So this is an example of digital war, AI battle that countries and organizations are you know engaged in now. So the last one is reputation. So when an organization or a nation has a stable and a very good security posture, it helps them to gain the trust of their customers and stakeholder, in the sense that any customer that is relating with that kind of business will be rest assured that yes, this business has put the right things in place to ensure that their customers' data are secure and well protected. And then they know that that business know what they are doing, right? And then they trust them with um, their business transactions or partnership, right? So also for stakeholders, maybe it could even be staff of the company, right? So the staffs of the company will also be rest assured that yes, we are complying with global standard, so our business is safe, right? From folding up or getting litigation, from cyber breach or cyber attack. So um, it builds trust, right? Majorly. So we've talked about five things majorly, that cybersecurity, why cybersecurity is important. And then we said number one, it helps in data protection. Number two, it helps in privacy, ensuring that data, individual and organization information remain private. It also helps in fortifying business continuity. It helps in national security as a whole. It also helps to build um, organization reputation. So that is that. And then we move to global trade landscape. So, what do you understand by landscape? Let's start from there. What do you understand by landscape? Anyone on the call?
I feel the landscape is like a particular place that governs like a particular area. Maybe, for example, like Lagos is a landscape in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
One part of, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Anyone else? Anyone can check your dictionary, can check Google. I just want to ensure that you guys are following. And also, I want another person to say something. What do you understand by landscape? What's the meaning of landscape? Nobody. Eh, you guys can do better. Okay. So, landscape is a particular region, Abi. It's a space, right? A portion of land or territory. So, when we now talk about threat landscape, right? So we are talking about, excuse me, we are talking about or when we're talking about global threat landscape. So threat means what? What has potential to do what? To cause harm, right? So global threat landscape is that space of um, things that can potentially cause harm, right? In a global view. So that's what we are talking about. So basically there are things that can potentially cause harm to an organization or entity. So number one is increasing sophistication. So like we said earlier, cybersecurity field is an ever evolving field, right? So as the day goes by, as the sun rises and sets, new attack vector, new mechanism that um, seekers and bad actors, attackers are working on day by day, right? So increasing sophistication here, it only means that every day attack surface are just expanding, and then um, with the high level or high usage of AI now, so it's also expand the the threat landscape, right? So when we now have AI that can give instructions on how to perform an attack, and we also have AIs that can give you instructions and practical guide on how to defend a certain type of attack. So it's getting complicated, right? So it's getting complicated. So we have increasing sophistication there. And number two, we have ransomware. So the one from the word ransom. So ransom means what does ransom mean? Ransom. What does it mean? Check your dictionary, check Google. Just respond, I beg. Hmm? Respond.
Is an amount of money requested by a particular person from a particular person or a community.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Better.
It's money paid in release of something or someone.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you are correct. You are both correct. So you like we usually hear in the news that Boko Haram group have kidnapped someone, and then they are demanding 5 million ransom, demanding ransom. So now, when you now have a software that is that has taken your that has taken a facility or a network, right? That has taken hold of that operation, right? So the word ransom is coming from two things. Ransomware is coming from ransom and software. Yeah. So that's where this where is coming from. Ransom plus software. That's ransomware.
Okay.
So yes. So is that software is a software that is usually disguised as a regular or harmless software, a regular software, right? That when you install it or you try to use it, it holds your documents or holds your system to ransom, right? So it's either it will either encrypt your documents and then tell you to pay certain amount in BTC to a certain account before they will be able to give you the key
To become account.
decrypt your document, right? So that's how it usually works. So what is this saying? A major and growing threat, crippling organizations and demanding payment. So that's ransomware. That's how it works. And then we have another one which is very rampant: phishing and social engineering. Today, I I still treated a case of phishing, right? So probably when we get to that part, we'll talk about phishing, and I'll show you the email. Show you the email. So phishing is also one of the attack that is very rampant, right? So phishing or social engineering. So from the word phishing, from the literal word fishing, fish, fish, right? Yeah. Fish, from the word fish, right? So that's where this is coming from. So, but in this case, so it has to do with targeting human vulnerability. Hmm? So when if you are familiar with people that fish very well, you know that some will use spear, some will use net, right? Some will use hook. So as we have that example in real life fishing, we also have that kind of example in this type of fishing we are talking about, in this type of cybersecurity threats that we are talking about. So we have spear phishing, we have um, so we'll talk more on phishing. So this generally means targeting human vulnerability, right? Targeting human vulnerability. So so another one is supply chain attack, right? So this supply chain attack is when an attacker or a bad actor knows where you are getting your raw materials or you are getting support from, right? And then they target that source. That is supply chain attack. So from the word supply chain, it means a line of chain of operation, right? Where you are getting your supplies from. Do you understand me? Please respond if you can understand.
Yes, yes.
So supply chain, where you are getting your supplies from, right? And then that when your source of supply is attacked, to do what? It will disrupt your own business because you are relying on that source to perform your business operation. Probably is where you are getting your raw material or where you are getting your maybe technical support or internet connection from. So when that source is attacked, right? So that is supply chain attack, and that can also be a problem. So that's where business continuity plan comes in to avoid supply chain attack. You know, so this is where you now say, okay, let's have two internet service provider so that when one goes down, we can quickly switch to another one. Let's have two raw material supplier. So one will be our primary supplier and then one will be our backup. So if this one does not have supply, then we'll go to supply B, right? So yeah. So then we have IoT vulnerabilities. So what is IoT? What is IoT? What is IoT? IoT means Internet of Things, right? So all things
So I
that
say is what?
Internet of Things.
All right.
Yeah, so Internet of Things, you have um you have your phone connected to your what's it called? You have your phone connected
To the laptop.
to scanner. No, no. So you usually hear there's this example I want to use. I've forgotten the name actually, but you've heard houses where you can use a card to open their door, thumbprint, um, scan your face and then open the door, use voice control to control the lights or turn on the fan, turn on the AC. Have you heard something like that? Right? I'm sure you are familiar with what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Get her.
So yeah, so when you now have all those connected to the internet, which means that from anywhere you are, you can control something in your house. Like you can increase the temperature, the room temperature, turn on the fan, can help visitor in your fan.
Open the door.
Yes, you can open the door even if you are not in the house, right? So when you have all those things connected to the internet, so that's IoT, right? So this the threat landscape is also looking at the vulnerabilities of that kind of system, right? So expanding attack surface due to insecure connected devices, right? So because you have different devices connected to the network, it's actually a network. So when there is a vulnerability in one of the device, so there is tendency that from that device that has a loophole or that has a very insecure um, very little security, very little security feature or position, they can get to other devices on the network, and then it puts it puts everything in danger, right? So that's IoT vulnerability. And then we have geopolitical motivation, which is a type of attack that's state-sponsored attacks for espionage, sabotage, or influence. So what this part is talking about is part of the threat landscape that we need to look at, or that is currently existing, is state-sponsored attack. So where a country attacks another country, right? On the internet. No, we are not talking about Israel and the Iran war, right? So which is physical missile. So we are talking about attacks carried out on countries' infrastructure, right? Through the internet, through networks, right? So that's geopolitical state-sponsored attack for espionage, sabotage, or influence, right? So and then so we have some key concepts. So you can read up these ones. I think we are done with day one. We are done with day one now. So these key concepts we have are asset, threat, vulnerability, and risk. So if we're talking about threat, vulnerability, so these this is the meaning of threat, this is the meaning of vulnerability. So asset is anything that we need to protect, anything that we need to protect, right? Data, hardware, software, and people, right? So you can see that they add people here, but in the definition of cybersecurity, yeah, I'll still need to add that. In the definition of cybersecurity, there was no people, but I added people when I was explaining. So assets, you have data, hardware, software, and people. Right? So people is also part of organizations asset. So we have threats. Threat is what? Potential danger. When they say someone threatens you, right? So it means that that person has not done any danger, but that person has said something, right? Has said something that sounds like danger or that means danger, right? So threat is potential danger that could be exploited, that could exploit vulnerabilities. So example is malware, hackers, and natural disaster. So those are threats. They are existing, right? But they are not. They are not. Uh, so until they happen, that's when you now say. Um, so you just need to consider them as threats, right? Because once they happen, so they can disrupt your business flow. And then we have vulnerability. So these are weaknesses in systems that can be exploited. So e.g. unpatched software, soft password, I mean weak password, weak cryptography algorithm, right? Like using SHA-1 or MD5, it's cryptography where you can use SHA-56, can use AES. So those are vulnerabilities, right? And then we have risk, which is what the likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability and the potential impact. So that's risk. So you can see the connection between threat, vulnerability, and risk. So this risk is the likelihood of these threats to exploit vulnerability, right? And then you now consider their potential impact. So when when we get to risk management, and then when we get to risk management, we'll be talking about the impact of potential impact of risk, risk level, right, and the types of risk treatment. So if you want to learn more on YouTube, you can search this. What is cybersecurity? You can search these terms: global cybersecurity, cyber threat landscape. So you see some interesting videos on these topics. So now to day two. So any questions so far? Yeah,
No, sir.
I've told you that the the beginning is usually just confusing, but these are things that you need to understand, you need to know before you get to the practical aspect. If you see someone that wants to join, please let me know. It's strange that somebody wants to join, but I've accepted the person, but I think the person did not join. Okay, so now we so talking about CIA Triad, right? So when we are talking about CIA Triad, we are not talking about Central Intelligence Agency of America. So we are talking about confidentiality, integrity, and reliability in cybersecurity. And these three is the most important and foundational knowledge and concept for um, every information security model. So CIA Triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So it's the foundational model in information security. So it represents the three core principles that information security aim to achieve and maintain, right? So usually this CIA triad is usually represented with a triangle, right? Let me see if I can CIA triad. So usually represented with a triangle with okay. Excuse me. Okay, I'm not sharing the screen. Okay, let me share this screen. You see. Uh, so can you see this screen? So you can see what I'm talking about. So when you search CIA triad, what you see is usually triangle image. So which means that excuse me, which means that the three are working in collaboration. So you cannot isolate one and say you want to focus on the other two. So you have to ensure that you balance the three, right? So can you see the so I will try and add this diagram, a diagram to that part. Okay, so CIA triad, like I said, is a fundamental model of information security. So it's the balance, the three principle that any information security system needs to achieve and also maintain. So what do we mean by confidentiality? Hmm? Anyone on the call? From the word confidential, what does it mean? You can
Private.
private, yes, private. So private. So you can remember that one of the importance of cybersecurity that we have discussed on this call is what is privacy, right?
Better.
If you are following,
So,
it's privacy. So that's what confidentiality is speaking to. So ensuring that it means ensuring that sensitive information is accessible only to authorized individual, preventing authorized disclosure, unauthorized disclosure of information. So definitely when you hear anything confidential, it means it has to be private, and only people that are authorized to view that thing or to have access to that thing should have access to it. So it's not meant for general public. It's not meant for, so nations will have their confidential files. Organizations will also have their confidential files, like trade secrets, right? So, for example, an eatery will have their meal signature, right? So that's that thing that makes their food to taste different from another eatery, right? So that's their trade secret, and it is confidential. So only few people will have access to that kind of information, right? And then those that have access to it have probably signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, that see this ingredient, oh, you cannot go and establish an entry an eatery and use it. You cannot sell it to anybody. Um, so they will have all those clauses and conditions that those people that have access to it will not uh, be free to disclose it. And if they disclose it, there will be consequences, right? It could be a jail term, it could be fine and stuffs like that. So that's about confidentiality. So the threats to confidentiality is eavesdropping. What is eavesdropping? So
To listen to a conversation that is
conversation
not
not meant
needed.
for you, yes, eavesdropping. So that is confidential threats to confidentiality. One is eavesdropping, two is unauthorized access, three data theft, number four sniffing, number five social engineering. So I think we can relate to eavesdropping, unauthorized access, data theft, sniffing. So the sniffing is basically disguising to be someone you are not, right? Just to have access to something you are not supposed to have access to. That's sniffing. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
when you hear IP sniffing, you're also sniffing. So you are disguising to be someone else, right? So, and then social engineering. I think we've been talking about social engineering. So can you explain? Anyone explain social engineering briefly?
So,
Just say something.
sorry,
Social engineering.
don't know.
So social engineering, it's a way of persuading people, or how do I put it? Yes, I can put it that way, persuading people to divulge information that they are not supposed to give out, right? So, or tricking people into believing something that is not real. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's social engineering. Social engineering. So,
Can you give an example?
okay, yeah, thank you. So, example of that is when we were talking about the, was it threats to, when we were talking about phishing slash confidentiality. Let me see. That's phishing slash social engineering. That's global threat landscape. So, yeah. So the reason why they paired those together is phishing is a form of social engineering, right? So now social
Yes,
engineering
sir.
is, example of social engineering is, like I explained, tricking someone into believing what they're not supposed to believe, or tricking someone to divulge information they're not supposed to divulge. So an example of that is an attacker sends an email. So I'm explaining from phishing perspective. An attacker sends an email from to maybe the customer service of an
Check
organization,
your password.
right? So
Yeah.
the email looks exactly like it's coming from the organization. It has all the closing remarks. If you work in an office, you understand what I'm saying. It has all the logos of the company at the bottom, address, phone number, everything. You know how they some usually design that part. It has everything, and then it's speaking with a tone, maybe uh, from from a director of the company, or an head of a department, right? So that's the tone of the email. So now, if the customer service agent that email was directed to, if that person is not knowledgeable about identifying phishing email, right, the person will fall for it. And then probably the email is saying that send me send so amount to this account, right? Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
it's a customer service. The person cannot send money. Let's say it's a small organization that the customer service can send money, or maybe someone in the finance team, right, that can send money. So an email is saying
Yeah.
that send also amount to this account, right, with immediate effect, right, and then, with the tone of that email, from which is showing that maybe it's from a director or a head of a department or a unit, a very strong person is sending an email. The person, without checking, without doing any verification,
Ask.
just sends the money. You know. So number one, the attacker has successfully tricked that personnel into believing that that email came from a director of the company, right? So that's social engineering basically.
Okay.
That's social
I get.
engineering. Yeah.
Yes. I think I
Could
get.
be, yeah, it could be that maybe send me a confidential file, right? Send me this so file. And that file is a confidential file. Maybe trade secret. I want to get some information from it to present to the potential client. You understand? So, and then the person just forwarded the the confidential file, right? So, which means that the person has leaked the trade secret of that organization, right? So that's social engineering. So any form of approach that leads to tricking people into believing what they're not supposed to believe, or divulge information they're not supposed to divulge. Yeah, so that's social engineering. It could be someone that dressed like the manager of the company and then approached maybe a new hire that, sorry, I'm having issue with my laptop and I need to quickly get an information or send an email. Can you provide me with the username and password of this computer so that I can quickly use it, and you know, and then the new hire, not knowing anything, just provided the email and password, and then boom. So that person has a credential he or she can use to enter into the network and then do whatever they want to do from there. So that's social engineering. Yeah, I, I hope that is clear enough. So examples of controls you can use to prevent um, threats to confidentiality is encryption, data encryption at rest or in transit. So data encryption at rest here means in storage, where you store your data, you need to, encrypt them. When they are in transit, when you are sending it to someone or you are receiving it from someone, especially data that contains confidential information, right? So they need to be encrypted, right? So Sorry, I was I was joining another link. Oh, so sorry. Okay, let me just present this screen. So can you see my screen? Okay, we're going to
Yes.
talk about confidentiality, right? So I've explained the encryption. I've explained the encryption. So one of the examples of controls that we can use to mitigate threats to confidentiality is also access control. That is controlling who have access to what. So we have role-based access control, we have mandatory access control, we have discretionary access control, right? We have time-based access control, and so on, like that. So we will talk more on those types of access control in the coming class. Also, we have authentication. So authentication, which means we'll also talk more on authentication, right, in coming class. So authentication is the means by which access to particular resources are checked. So we also have data loss prevention, right? We have physical security mode. So if you remember, part of my definition of cybersecurity is not only digital. We are not only considering. Excuse me. So we are not only considering um, securing network systems and hardware and people digitally. So we are also considering their physical security. So that's where we talk about cameras, trapdoor, billiard, fence, electric fence, etc. Right. So and then from there we'll move to integrity. I want us to finish the CIA trial before 10:30 so that we can wrap up from here. So it means we are not able to talk about common threats and so so integrity. So from the literal meaning of integrity, right? So integrity means what? When they say someone has integrity, it means that the person is the person is truthful and trustworthy, right? When the person say it is A, then you read A there, right? So the person will not say A and then you go and meet B there. So A is A, B is B. So so in the aspect of cybersecurity, in that aspect of security, so it means maintaining the accuracy, consistency, and trustworthiness of data throughout its life cycle. So whether it's in storage or is on transit, so the integrity must be intact. That means the accuracy must be intact, right? The trustworthiness, it must be consistent, right? So at point A, when the data was stored, you have A there. So at when the data is about to move, it has to contain A and not change to B. That's consistency. Right? So since you have stored A there, if you want to move it, you are moving A, right? When it gets to where it's supposed to get to, you are getting A and not B, right? So that's consistency, accuracy, consistency, and trustworthiness. So threats to integrity, that's where we have tampering, unauthorized modification, data corruption, malicious insider action, and malware. So I think from what I've explained most of this tampering. So I said when data is stored, you store A, right? When you are moving it, you are sending it across to whoever you want to send it to. The person is also receiving A, right? So if anything happens to that data between where you have sent it and where it's going, then the integrity of that data is not intact. Right? So that's tampering. So someone might have come in between transaction and then tamper with the data and change A to B, right? So that's tampering. Also, that explains unauthorized modification because that person in the middle was not supposed to be there, was not supposed to receive the data, right? So data corruption. So is also maybe it can be probably incompleteness. maybe while transferring it, um, you're supposed to have like 5 pages. Then during the process of transferring, some of the data got corrupted. So you don't have complete data, right? So, or the whole file got corrupt that you can't even open it. Right? So also malicious insider action. That's when someone from the inside, right? So someone, for example, a staff of the organization is acting malicious, right? So the when I was explaining transferring data, I explained someone in the middle between the source of data and the destination of data. So that someone in the middle, which is called man in the middle attack, can be from outside or inside. So if it's from outside, then maybe the person is um, the person is a bad actor, an attacker. It's from the inside, is a malicious insider actor. So that's what we're talking about. So example of controls we can use to prevent to maintain integrity of data. Example is hashing, ensuring that data hasn't changed. So we'll talk more on this concept in in our subsequent class. So hashing is a cryptographic value that is used to compare um, data from maybe source and destination. So from the source, a particular hashing value will be generated. So when you get to the destination, a particular hashing value can also be generated. So if nothing has changed within that process of transmission, the hashing value of the destination of the source and destination will be the same. So which has helped us verify that nothing has changed in the data. So that's hashing. So digital signature is also verifying authenticity and integrity. So we have version control, which tracks changes to documents and or code. We have access control, restricting write access. So we have a backup and recovery procedure, so that can ensure that the original data is safe somewhere and we can easily retrieve it if there is maybe data corruption while sending the data. So we have checksum. Checksum is just similar to hashing. It will also generate a particular value. So and also it can be used to check if something has changed. So that's so the last one, availability. So availability has to do with ensuring that authorized user have access to um,
Evans, who you go let pick am for?
information or resources
Let pick am for.
at the right
Eh?
time, right?
Eh?
When they need it. Please, you can mute if you want to discuss in the background, right? You can
I'm
mute.
a passing out that bucket. I'm in my office now.
So okay, so availability is it ensures that what authorized users have timely and uninterrupted access to information and resources as at when they need it. So threat to availability, we have denial of service, that's DOS attack, and we have DDoS attack, we have hardware failure, power outage, natural disaster, human error. So also this availability, some of the controls are sometimes having alternative, a backup plan, right? So like this hardware failure, you can have a backup, right? You can have a backup hardware or backup of the system. Power failure, you can have inverter generator, UPS, right? So natural disaster is this one can be curtailed by having a backup site, right? That is far away from your um, primary site, right? Do you
Yes,
understand?
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you said
You said, did we understand? I said, yes, sir.
okay. Yeah. So human error can also be a threat to availability. Maybe by maybe configuration. Someone configured the wrong thing, and then it's hinders the availability of resources or information. So example of control, we have redundancy, which is what I've explained. Redundancy means a control that you put in place to reduce lack of availability, right? So you have servers, power supplies, network link, like having two network link, having alternative
So
power
I said the
supply.
control of what?
You said? Yeah, I said redundancy. Like I've explained before, having backup of some of your things.
I didn't get the redundancy. You said it's the control to reduce what?
It is the control put in place to reduce the impact of unavailability of
Okay.
a key resource. So for example, so you have backup servers, right? So you have server A as the main server, and then you have server B as the backup server. So in case server A backs up or is malfunctioning, you can quickly move to server B with the same configuration with server A so that it can continue to serve the purpose of server A. Power supply. You have alternative power supply, generator, inverter, UPS. Network link, you have probably two or three network provider. You have MTN, Glo, you have Airtel, and you can switch. You can have one as your main and then the other two as your backup network. So another one is a backup and disaster recovery plan. So this is basically a plan that will help you implement all this redundancy that we were talking about. So it's a plan. So this plan will contain different scenarios of different scenario of things that of threats that can affect your business continuity, and then you now discuss or talk about the plan to ensure that it does not impact your business or does not impact your business process. So that's a backup and disaster recovery plan. Load balancing. So this is also talking about having two or three backup server in such a way that when server A gets to when server A gets high traffic than it can handle, then it shares the load with server B, right? So and also with server C, right? So high availability cluster is also similar to load balancing. So we have different clusters of servers that will share uh, responsibilities. So regular maintenance and patching, maintaining your hardware, maintaining your software. Software maintenance is patching. So regular maintenance is for hardware, like cleaning the fan, changing hardware when they are needed or at interval. So patching is usually for software updates, right? So I hope you can relate them to availability. Hmm? Can you relate all these points to
Better.
availability? Yeah. So you need to be able to relate them. So protection against DOS,
Better.
DDoS. So for protection against DOS and DDoS, you can use firewall. You can use IPS and IDS and anti-DDoS services, like IPS and IDS basically. So we'll talk more on those. So I think we should call it a day here. So interdependence of the triad. So basically, the three works together. You have to balance the three. Like so, for a successful information security or a solid information security structure. So you have to balance the three. You can't leave one and focus on two. So it will have impact. So any question, and then we wrap up from here. Any question? So in the absence of no question, yeah. So don't forget the assignment. The assignment is day 6. Right? Analyzing real world cyber attack and accessing the threat impact. So the instruction is there. The objective is to understand practical application of cybersecurity threats by analyzing real world attack case studies. Since we are testing knowledge on threat type. So just read through the instruction, submit, do the assignment. I'll drop a link. So I'm trying to set up a Google Classroom so that we can have all these things automatically set up. You can submit your assignments there. You can join class link from there. So let's see how it goes. Probably before next week, probably I will be able to set something. But it's a lot of work with trying to come up with the content of the class. So assignment is day six. Let's go ahead. So on Friday, so this assignment submit. So you still have till next week to submit it actually. So submit it before Tuesday next week. Before Tuesday next week. So other ones, that means you read 3, 4, and 5 alone, right? So then the next class will brush on them and then talk about day six. So that's what we're going to do. Sense of absence of no question, we end this class here. Thank you very much for attending. Please, I would like you
Thank you,
to
sir.
attend the next session. So, do have a wonderful night rest.
And you too, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you too, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.